discover how to find inner peace and heal from stress. In today's episode with Dean Graves, he's a mental health counselor, author, podcaster, and meditation instructor and keynote speaker. So, Dean, please tell us, how can entrepreneurs find inner peace and heal from stress? Heal Podcast with Lily Patrascu shares longevity and anti-aging techniques to stay young forever, increase energy, overcome addiction, and live your longest, best life ever, shared by world's most innovative, alternative, and traditional health thought leaders, healers, and doctors. Discover quantum healing strategies to heal your mind, body, and soul.
Well, it's not just entrepreneurs, it's everyone. Everyone has the same design that is intended to allow us to become aware and use the healing powers that we have in order to advance ourselves along the enlightenment path. The enlightenment path is synonymous with the evolution of consciousness, so it is our task for participating in creation.
Okay, so tell us, what are the steps for finding inner peace? What is your blueprint for entrepreneurs to do this?
Okay. Well, as humans, we function under what is called an archetypical mind. And our archetypical mind is a blueprint for how we process thoughts. The blueprint requires, at our range of consciousness, that we create a hierophant, or a false identity, or an ego. It's all the same thing, just different words for the same thing. And we begin doing this from the moment that we're born. And we do this by having experiences. The purpose of this is to explore and to get us more of what we like. All humanity and all consciousness throughout the creation is motivated to get more of what we like. But the interesting part of it is, when we begin the process, we don't have any idea what we like. And so we're exploring through the process of analogy to have experiences to determine, really, first of all, what we don't like in order to know what we will like when we do encounter it. We create this hierophant, which is our perception of self. It's who we think we are. And we constantly modify this hierophant with every experience that we have, every thought that we process. We are obligated to make a decision as to whether we like the current thought that we're processing or we don't like the current thought that we're processing. Anything that we don't like is stress, and stress is a spectrum. If it's a minor issue, then we'll probably dismiss it without any great attention, but it can range all the way up to what we consider to be a traumatic experience. Stress is anything that we don't like, and it is intended to be a message to us about what it is that we have incorporated into this identity that is not getting us more of what we like, in order to become aware of the beliefs that we've incorporated into this hierophant, which is all the hierophant is a bundle of beliefs. It is our ego mind. And as we continue to have experiences, the more that we defend and protect this identity, the more we intensify our stress. And of course that manifests into physical and emotional difficulties, as well as what we define as mental difficulties as well. The objective is to have us narrow down by learning to use the tool of healing that we all have. While we're defending and protecting this hierophant, our awareness is, by design, focused outside of us. In other words, I have to observe your reactions to my hierophant to determine how successful my hierophant is being in getting me what we want. But we reach a point in life, hopefully, where we have what is often phrased as an awakening, but that's an often misunderstood term. An awakening is nothing more than that point in your life when you get to the point that you realize that all the stuff that you've been doing in order to try to essentially trick the world into giving you more of what you like isn't working, that you may be successful in what it is that you're doing by monetary standards or fame standards or whatever cursory standard that you want to use, but you realize you're actually not getting happier by virtue of your successes, your accomplishments, and so forth. And it is our task at that point to learn to invert that same awareness that we've been pointing outside of ourselves, to invert that inwardly and begin to explore ourselves, which is our common purpose. All consciousness throughout all of creation, and it's more vast than what we can imagine, have the exact same purpose, and that purpose is to explore ourselves. We also have a mission, which is separate and apart from the purpose. The mission is to learn to do what it is that we like. And by learning to do what we like, we become proficient at that because we like to do it. And that awareness of doing what we like and developing that proficiency allows us to become successful in whatever definition, that meritocracy definition that we would like to use.
Thank you. So it's all very complex, what you said. It's very deep. When we reach, for example, this moment of awakening, do we kind of like become closer to who we're supposed to be? And how do we know that we are now like on the right track towards finding inner peace?
Well, you know it because of the way that you feel. Happiness is the measure of how we're doing. So if we're getting happier, then we're on the right track. If we're continuing to experience significant stress, then we're off in the weeds. We've wandered off the path. Bliss is defined as perfect happiness. Bliss is nothing more than the absence of stress. And so what we are doing in the course of our evolution is just exploring what it is, who we are, but it's also exploring through experiences what we don't like. And when we reach that point of awareness, then we learn to pursue what it is that we truly like, which requires us to begin to throw out those beliefs that we have been accumulating over our lifetime to perpetuate our defense and protection of the Hierophant. Now, it's difficult because the Hierophant is who we think we are. That is who we perceive that we are. And so we reach a point where we realize the question, if I'm not who I think I am, then who am I? And that fear of not being who we think we are is the major detriment to our being successful in reducing our stress and gaining greater happiness.
Thank you. So how do we actually know who we really are, and what steps can we take to find this inner peace?
Well, you have to allow yourself, first of all, become aware and realize that awareness is the tool that we all have, not only to be successful in our Hierophant, but also to be successful in our purpose in life and to explore and find that happiness that we all seek. We have basic motivations, which is inherent to us all. And that happiness comes from when we actually begin to feel our authentic self, which is always there. It's underlying the Hierophant. There's absolutely nothing that we need to gain in order to allow ourselves to be our authentic self and to experience the happiness that we all are entitled and programmed to experience. And if you think of happiness as being the ocean, and when there is a void on the shore for whatever reason, there's an empty hole, the water fills that. Happiness fills the void when we begin to throw these beliefs that we've accumulated into our Hierophant. When we begin to throw those beliefs out, happiness fills that void. It's automatic. Happiness is not something that we can get. It's not something that we can give. It's something that we are.
Thank you. So how do we get there? Like what actions, habits, and routines do we need to have in order to find inner peace?
Okay. First of all is become familiar with awareness and understand when your awareness is pointed outside of yourself. If it's pointed outside of yourself, then you are seeking to enhance this hierophant. When you learn to take that same awareness and invert it and become aware of what it is that you're feeling, and this is a feeling process, it's not an intellectual process. The more you remain in the intellectual side of it, then the more you are defending and protecting that hierophant. And with that awareness will require some devotion on your part to set aside some quiet time every day. And that's what meditation does. Meditation, I tell my meditation students that we exist in both the guru's cave and the village simultaneously. In the village are all problems. There are no problems whatsoever in the guru's cave. And when we allow ourselves time every day to go into the guru's cave where there are no problems, it's like getting a vacation. When you go on vacation, it usually takes 2 or 3 days for you to get out of that conquer the world work mode. And then you get into vacation and you calm down and you become more aware. But then it's time to go back to work. And you have exactly the same problems that you were contending with before you went on vacation when you come back. But the difference is you have a different perspective on those problems because you've gained insights of your relation to those problems while you're on vacation. When we enter into a condition of meditation, then we do the same thing. We're inverting that awareness. We're allowing ourselves to spend time where there are no problems so that when we come out of the guru's cave, we go back into the village, but we have a different perspective in our relationship to the problems that we have to contend with during the course of the day. Mindfulness is, again, an often misunderstood phrase. Mindfulness is nothing more than learning to take the condition of awareness that you gain in your meditation with you when you go back into the village. So not only do you go back into the village and contend with the problems with a different attitude that you've gained through your meditation, but you maintain that different perspective as you contend with the problems that exist in the village.
Thank you. So what should we be seeking in order to find inner peace?
Well, you seek a lot of things. Actually, what we ultimately seek as humans, we perceive that we desire love. We want love, but love is a misunderstood concept as well. Love is not a commodity. It's not something that we can give. It's not something that we can receive. Every time that we have experienced love in our life, what we have actually experienced is a person, a place, or a situation, or even a thing that has allowed us temporarily to surrender the Hierophant so that we are allowing ourselves to feel our authentic self. We are what we seek. We are the love that we seek. So we have that. What we seek more than just that feeling of love is intimacy. And because of our erroneous perceptions of self, we perceive that we can or need to be intimate with another person. But the reality is we have to learn to be intimate with ourselves, which simply means that we have to be completely honest with ourselves that there's nothing that we do not freely admit to ourselves, if nothing else, about who we are and what it is that makes up our beingness. Now, when we achieve that, then we are significantly surrendering the power of this Hierophant in order to direct our lives. When we see someone that we deem to be of a strong character, that's principled, that has integrity, that's moral, that's ethical, all of those names that we assign to someone that we deem to be admirable in our culture, then what we are observing is someone who has done this work on themselves, for the most part, probably intentionally. And it's not a matter if they have been trained to be moral or trained to be ethical or trained to be integrous. They have become that. That is who they are. And so it's not a matter of them deciding whether they're going to have integrity in this situation or that situation. They have no alternative because that is their authentic self. That is who they are. And when you see someone, then that's usually someone that we want to begin to emulate. And that's the way we learn as humans. We learn by observing others that we deem to be happier than we are. And we begin to mimic that person until we one day wake up and we realize we are of that same level of advancement, consciousness advancement as that person. When we reach that level, then we again look around for someone else to emulate for the same reason. We deem that person to be happier than we are, and we begin to do the process all over again. And it's a stair-step process. We begin where we are. We cannot begin where we would like to be. We have to begin where we are. But we are changing ourselves. We are the only things that we can change. And we have to change what it is that we perceive ourselves to be. And by this process, we are incrementally surrendering these false perceptions of self and becoming more of our authentic self, which is already there. We just have to expose it. If you imagine that our authentic self is gold and we've buried it in the ground and and piled a bunch of trash on top of it, in order to be our authentic self, we have to get rid of the trash that we piled on top, and we have to dig the gold out of the ground. And when we do that, then we become our authentic self. We surrender significant, if not completely, surrender our Hierophant, and we become our authentic self, which by its nature is happy and integrous and all of those things that we deem admirable.
Thank you. Let's take a practical example. So I've encountered unappreciative clients and also different situations. Does that mean that my self-love is low in some cases? So I would say in 20% of the cases, I noticed this was the case. And I noticed that I started working on my self-concept and self-love. And since then, I have noticed a difference. Does that mean that if I wanted to find inner peace and to find, you can say, love around me, so basically to be appreciated more in the workplace, or be appreciated more by my clients, what I need to do, instead of expecting other people to love me, I should work on my self-love? And if yes, what exactly do I need to do to get there?
Well, let me clarify a concept that you're expressing. You're expressing the concept that you can love yourself, and that is not true. That makes love a commodity. Love is not a commodity. Is it a condition of being that you are in? So we are magnetic. By that I mean we attract the experiences that we need in order to become aware of what it is that we have incorporated into this false perception of self that we need to let go of, so that this gold can be exposed, our authentic self can be exposed. So we need to learn to become aware of how experiences are coming to us. The more that we surrender this false perception of self, the less stress that we feel, and the more we have a stress-free life. But stress is our teacher. So when we encounter those 20% of whatever percentage that people deem is prevailing in their life, when you encounter those stressful situations, then it's incumbent upon us to become aware of what it is inside of us that we need to change. It's not a matter of self-love. It is a matter of exposing the love that you are. Love is a condition of being. It's not a commodity. It's not something that you can trade with someone. It's not something that you can get from someone. It's not something that you contract for with someone. It's how you are. So the more you become your authentic self, the more you attract others that have done the same work or that are perceiving you as someone that they deem happier than they are, and they want to emulate your state of being, your condition of being.
Thank you. So how can I actually get to this state where, let's say, 100% of my clients appreciate me in this particular example that you gave?
Okay. First, in a business situation, more often than not, it begins with becoming aware of what your motivation is for trying to do business with this client. If your motivation is to enhance your profitability and that's your sole purpose, then you are establishing simply a transactional relationship that has no meaning beyond the transaction that you're trying to conduct. You're going to continue to possibly be successful or probably not be successful in a certain percentage of your endeavors. However, if you transform the transactional nature of your relationship with your client to one of authenticity, of solving their problems or making them
Successful.
less entrenched in their hierophant, then you're providing them with something that they need more so because you're establishing trust. They need something more from you than just the product that you're trying, or service that you're trying to convince them to use.
Okay, well, everything that I do has like an impact, like a massive impact on their lives, because I publish books that transform the world, and in the process, they get to have a personal transformation in terms of even their image, and because of that, they become more appreciative of themselves as well, and how they look and how they're perceived in the world. So it's never just the transaction, and I deeply care about every one of them. But I do find that in the super high ticket programs, there is quite a lot of fear that I have around actually presenting this program to super high ticket clients. So how can I find inner peace in that relationship?
Well, you have to release that, because that is part of that is a belief in your hierophant. And in the counseling work that I do several processes, some of which are targeted towards people's perception of self that expands to the point of being a condition that has persisted through most, if not all, of their life. Invariably, when we go through a reductive process, the one underlying condition that I would say 99% of the people in the world share is a feeling of inadequacy, or I'm not worthy, or something of that nature. It's some wording of that type. And when we clear that, then that fear or anxiety or whatever it is that you're describing goes away. And once you clear that, then you no longer have to contend with that. I had a lady that I did this process with just last week. She's a very successful attorney, has a thriving practice and lots of clients. But she had this feeling every time she got to the point of asking them for money, she clenched up. And she felt it in her throat. She just felt it as it's going to come up. And so she would have one of her partners always deal with the money part. So she's very successful and accomplished in all the other aspects of her career, but she couldn't ask for money. And it went back, and in the course of this process that I do, it went back when she was 3 or 4 years old, and she had an older sister, and the older sister was assigned to babysit, her younger sister, and her older sister had a girlfriend, and they would come over and they would play. And whenever they would play, they would take the younger sister's toys to play with them and deprive the younger sister of her toys. And that created a mindset from the age of, say, 3, that she was not worthy in order to interact with someone she deemed very close, obviously her sister. And this was an underlying belief that she had included into her hierophant that she just needed to get rid of. And we got rid of it in an hour, and she was amazed and has gone on, with their happy life without that stigma.
Thank you. So how can someone get rid of that? Is it that they have to have a therapist like you to deal with that, because it's impossible to actually do it on your own?
No, you can do it on your own. And some people do it on their own. It was a process that when I first learned this process, I had, throughout my entire life, I had an underlying tension, and I couldn't explain it. It would never go away. It wouldn't go away on vacation. It wouldn't go away at any time. There was always just a feeling, and it was not associated with anything that I could identify. I could go to a therapist for, 50 years and never have uncovered this. But doing this process, the first time that I did the process with the doctor that created the process and trained me in the process, and it went away, and I had the most blissful feeling as soon as the process was over. It was a remarkable feeling. You can do it on your own. It is awareness. It's all the processes do is focus your awareness inside of you. And it is understand that whatever belief that we put into this Hierophant will stay there until we take it out. If you were a child that was born into an abusive family, and I use this example with my students, if you were born into an abusive family and your worst experience was being abused 5 times a day, if your best experience was being abused once a week, that's your best experience. You're abused only once a week. So that's the parameter that you've established for your Hierophant that is going to remain there until you take it out. So for the rest of your life, if you're not in some form or fashion abused once a week, you are going to be disappointed. You're going to strive somehow to create that point of failure, that opportunity to be abused once a week until you take that out, that belief, and it's nothing more than a belief. Take that belief out of your Hierophant.
Oh, that's so interesting. Okay, so does that mean that these people that I've attracted into my life that became my clients, and 80% of them were brilliant, they were sweet, they were kind, they paid on time, they were great overall, and then those 20%, those people are people that I attracted because I've been verbally and physically abused before? Is that what it means?
Well, it's not necessarily. That was an example. I'm not suggesting that you have to be abused in order to attract those people, but there is some belief that you've still incorporated into your Hierophant that is attracting. There's some aspect of you, your perception of self, that is attracting that 20%.
Okay.
But by that very nature, that is the lesson to you that you need to become aware of what it is inside of you that is attracting that. And when you let that go, then you will no longer do that.
That's very interesting, because you can say I am aware of that. Okay, because I was abused from a very young age. And in terms of, like, my grandma used to beat me every day, and she used to say that I was stupid, ugly, and fat. And luckily that happened only during the summer, so only like roughly 3 months a year.
Made you very fond of summer times, I'm sure.
No, I was really terrified of going to.
I'm sure.
But I mean, she wasn't all bad. Like, she would give me gifts. She would bring me food, So she had like a very it was a very dual kind of nature. She was very kind, like from a generous, she would give me money, but when it came to actually behavior, she was very strict. She wanted me to be perfect. So if she perceived that I wasn't perfect, she would punish me.
Okay, well, think about that for a moment. Yeah. She was very strict, which means she was very rigid and not willing to look inside of herself as to why she was rigid. And she was vicariously projecting her perceived life failures onto you from a loving perspective. So she vacillated between the punishment and the love. Yeah. And she was projecting onto you her own perceived life failings to lovingly guide you to avoid what she perceived to be the cause of her difficulty.
Yeah. So, I mean, you can say that I became I became aware of the what do you call it? I became aware of the treatment that other clients had on me, and how I attracted them to me. I just like have no idea how to actually get rid of that. But basically, the only way that you're suggesting is you have to go through therapy, and you have to like go through the motions of figuring out what is triggering that and become aware of it, and then do certain actions that will remove the you can say the cause of it, and then from there you will start to experience you can say the enlightenment, and then you will stop creating that. But perhaps you will be creating other things that are triggered by other behaviors, and the whole idea is that you continuously become better and continuously discover these triggers, and as you're discovering them, you keep working on those triggers, and that's how you become an enlightened being. Is that the idea? Yeah.
Yes, well, remember our conversation when I explained that our purpose, everyone's common purpose, is to explore ourselves. And so what you're doing by the very process that you've outlined is exploring yourself, and you're surrendering those false perceptions of self that prohibit you or restrict you from being your authentic self. Your authentic self is already happy, is already love, it's already several other aspects too that feel wonderful.
Thank you. Tell us where entrepreneurs can find you.
The easiest way is I have a website, ddeangraves.org, and it has all my contact information. If someone that would like to go through this process of healing, I work primarily now with traumas, and through these same processes, I have been successful in relieving traumas in a matter of 10 or 15 minutes. And it doesn't matter how long you've had the trauma. I've done lots of work with Vietnam veterans that have had traumas for 50 years, and they're just amazed that it goes away in 10 or 15 minutes. The more deeper processes that we were talking about, the reductive process, take a little longer, depends on the individual, somewhere between 30 and 45 minutes, but it's forever. It's not something that, gee, I feel good now, but I'm going to feel bad tomorrow. It doesn't work that way. Once you get rid of these beliefs and focus your awareness on the healing, then it's gone. How many that you have to get rid of is entirely an individual experience, because you've had your experiences that you've had.
Wow, fascinating. Okay, perfect. So tell us where entrepreneurs can find you.
You can find me on my website, the initial D, Dean Graves, all one word, .org. And it has all my contact information and additional information about the services that I offer.
Thank you. Follow me for more interviews with world's most innovative health change makers to live your healthiest life ever.